to talk a little bit about choosing the correct sweater size when you're ready to get started knitting something. And there are a few steps to this, a little bit of work you might have to do to get it really accurate. So I want to talk about putting all of these things together. The first thing you want to do is get a really accurate measurement of you or the person you're knitting it for. From here on out, we're going to pretend that you're making a sweater for yourself. And most sweater sizes are based on bust or chest sizes. I will give you a link in the video description below to a website that will show you exactly how to measure to get that right, to exactly where on your body you need to measure to get that measurement. Once you have that measurement, keep that. You also might want to look through your own closet to find a sweater or a t-shirt or really anything that fits in a way that you really like. You have found a pattern you like and you have this other sweater that you already own and you really like the fit of it. You can make the sweater in the size that this finished sweater already is. All you need to do is set that sweater out, measure at the fullest part of the chest or bust, and double it, and that will be the chest measurement for the sweater size that you want to knit. Now let's talk about the patterns. This is the part that really confuses a lot of people. Patterns will say, for example, small, medium, large, 32 inches, 36 inches, 40 inches. And the question I get a lot in email is people will ask me, how do I know if that is the actual sweater size or the size of the person you're making the sweater for? And you have to do a little research to figure that out if the pattern doesn't make it clear. Patterns that make it clearer will say small, medium, large, 32 inches, 36 inches, 40 inches, and then it will say actual finished sweater size, and it will give you the actual number of inches around for the finished sweater size, which means the first measurements are for the person. You want to take if you are a 40-inch chest or bust and the pattern says 40 inches, that's your actual measurement. And then the finished sweater might actually be 42 inches. In that case, the sweater has 2 inches of positive ease. I mean, it's a pretty casual, nice fit. Actual measurement and the finished size measurement. If you have those two written out in the pattern, no further research is necessary. But if it's not written out in the pattern, the next way you might get lucky is if there are schematic drawings. You can see what the full chest measurement is there. But if you don't get that either, the next thing you do is you have to actually look through the pattern and read through the pattern to find what the stitch count is at the fullest part of the chest or bust. If it's a sweater knit in the round, it's just one number. If it is a sweater that's knit in pieces, you're going to have to add up the front and the back, or the back and the two fronts, whatever, to get the full number of stitches around the chest. Then take that number, the number of stitches, divide it by the gauge. And the stitches per inch for gauge might be 5 stitches per inch. You will have then the number of inches around the finished sweater. You might want to keep this in mind and watch this video again before you actually start knitting the sweater, but this is the idea. If it doesn't give you the number, you can figure it out by taking the stitch count divided by the gauge. Now, that's how you're going to get that number. One thing you want to take into consideration is if you're making a sweater for someone who is bigger below the waist than above the waist. Since sweater patterns usually go on chest or bust sizes, they don't usually take into consideration someone who's perhaps has bigger hips than bust, or for a man, someone who has a bigger belly than chest. For women's sweaters, if there's shaping in the sweater, meaning that it decreases at the waist and goes back out at the hips, you have to look at the pattern and take all of that into consideration. But for a straight sweater or a men's sweater, you really want the biggest part of the body that the sweater is going to cover between the armpits and the bottom of the sweater. And if that's hips or belly, you want to take that measurement and run with the pattern from that size instead of the chest size. You can fit a sweater, perfectly from the waist up, but then if it's fitting too tightly below that at the hips, it's not going to be a favorite sweater. Okay, the last bit of advice I have is Ravelry, Ravelry.com. And I think most knitters know about Ravelry already. It's free and it is a great resource, and one of my favorite ways of using Ravelry is if I want to make a sweater, I can search for that pattern on Ravelry and see other projects that are already finished. And if it's a popular sweater pattern, there could be thousands of other people who have made this and posted it to Ravelry. And luckily, people usually post a photo of the person wearing the sweater, and you can scroll through these photos and find someone who has a body type similar to yours. You can see what the sweater looks like on them, and there won't be any surprises when the sweater is finished. It's just about as good as trying it on yourself if you can match yourself up with someone who's similar to you. I've used this, and looking at this actual sweater on actual bodies, it's made me excited about knitting sweaters. It's also shied me away from knitting sweaters when I thought the sweater was cute, but then when I actually saw it on someone built like me, I wasn't as happy with it. Anyway, those are my pointers how I suggest to choose a sweater size before you start knitting.